school year, and starting out in the fall is going to be an entire new ball game. Natasha, do you have?
I know that with the Louisville PTO, we've been working with a whole lot of parents, and what I have seen is that there's been a whole lot of frustration with the parents as far as being thrown into a position where they feel like that they have to help teach their kids. And because there's so many people that have a whole lot of kids within the home, so that would require different levels. If you have a kid that's in kindergarten, 5th grade, 8th grade, so that can cause a whole lot of stress within the house as a whole. And then just trying to deal with what's going on in the world, and then trying to figure out how you're going to feed your kids. Some of people haven't received unemployment. It's a whole lot for people to take in. So it's causing a whole lot of stress. So trying to figure out ways where people can deal with everything, the whole change. It's like a shift in the education system, as far as how you're going to feed your family, not knowing if you're going to have to work, and some people that have to go back to work and they're fearful to go back to work. So it's a whole lot. But I know that one of my fears is like, I know the world is starting to go back to normal, but with the things that are coming out about the children, who is going to want to send their kids back to school?
And teachers that are vulnerable.
I know I'm not. My kids are not going back to school.
To face-to-face school, you mean?
Yes.
And I assume the same situation applies if you, when you go back, if they try and do alternating days, then that's going to be a nightmare for parents too.
Right. It's a whole lot to deal with, to take in. And you have to try to figure out ways to figure out what you're going to do, what your options are, but there's no stability to even make a decision. So people that are already in not so great situations, how can they make decisions when they don't, I don't know if I'm going to have to stay home with my kids, and I have this job that says if I don't come to work, then I can't feed my kids. So it's so much. It's so much.
And what has, as a parent, what has JCPS done from your perspective to help parents at all, or what, other than connectivity issues, I guess? What have you seen?
I know that the crazy thing is, because I'm so involved myself, and Gay and I, we always meet with Marty, so we have the inside, but it concerns me about the people who don't have the connection to JCPS, students that still don't have the. I know Marty is planning on, for about the beginning of the school year, making sure that every child has a Chromebook. He made that commitment that he's going to be using the money that he's going to get from the COVID to make sure every child has a Chromebook. But then there's still connection issues as far as the internet. It's just so much. And one good thing is that they did pass in Kentucky where parents that have kids that are school age kids, that they can get food. You guys seen that? So that is a good thing, because people were having issues with getting food because they're not used to their kids being home. And so that was a thing that they did help with as a whole. But
you're talking about the meal plan through JCPS, or you're talking about SNAP or something?
The SNAP thing. So
the
that
debit
is
card
something that is helping with. JCPS, they did help with as far as feeding the kids throughout the pandemic. I think we could do better as far as more of communication with the parents. It needs to be some type of structure because I feel like it's all over the place. Even though we do know that no school is the same, but I feel like if it one child I have has like tons of homework, and then the other one doesn't have any homework, it's just so all over the place that we need to figure out a way to make it an even situation and have more flexibility for the parents, even though they say that it is. But even dealing with my own kids, it wasn't as flexible as they said in the media. You know, it was more expectations out of the kids.
And if you have more than one kid, you got to have more connectivity because the classes can overlap. Is what I've heard.
Yes, and they do. Because at one time I had like 3 kids meeting with their teachers at one time. You know, and then I have a toddler running around. So I'm like, I can only imagine people that already have like mental health issues or anything that they have going on, how much of a stress and strain that is on them. So.
Thanks. Anything else? Gay, you have anything to add?
Kind of to piggyback on what Latasha was talking about, just we already know there are huge disparities between our schools and between our families and their internet abilities as well as their time at home that they can spend mentoring their children or hiring a tutor or getting the extra help that they might need. That's one extreme versus the other extreme where they have none of those resources and they're working multiple jobs and not home during the day. And one of the complaints we also got frequently is teachers would assign work on a Monday and it was due on a Friday, and parents that are working full-time maybe don't have time to help their kids until the weekend. And so there was a lot of disparities again between the demands and the flexibilities and the capabilities of each of the teachers and the structure that they provided and the guidance and communication that they provided. So it really seemed like the schools that were already doing well, that already had populations that were doing well, didn't really miss a beat. And our families that were already struggling and behind, first of all, they're still waiting for their Chromebooks to come in the mail 2 weeks later. And then when they're finally able to troubleshoot and their parents are able to sit down with them and then they're falling through the cracks. And the higher, we actually got an open records request report that showed the schools that had less than 90% connectivity, and it aligns exactly with the schools that have low test scores, that have high poverty, have high minority populations, high just different at-risk factors, the low PTA involvement, the low PTA budgets, and so it's already been there, but now we have an opportunity to actually like quantify it and put a name and a face and a story to it. And so I feel like I'm disappointed in a lot of ways because May 27th is the last day of school, and we didn't figure out what we don't know. We didn't figure out which kids have not connected at all and what we're going to do about that, and how do we get the public to be aware of that. Like, this was an opportunity in my mind to knock on those doors, and maybe they did. I'm sure they did, but did we tell the story in a way that pulled on the heartstrings of our community and motivated us to do something about it? And I really feel like we're going to go into the summer and all of that is going to be lost. All that story that would bring empathy is going to be lost. And as these disparities are widening because of the corona, they're even 1,000 times worse than they were before the virus. So the gaps need to be visualized, and those who are doing well, instead of feeling like because they're doing well, everybody must be doing well. It kind of reminds me of the Stephen Colbert joke, I ate today, therefore world hunger is solved. A lot of times people tend to only look at life from their own experiences, and we have to tap into those families that didn't miss a beat and draw their attention to the families that are struggling and try to bridge that gap between the schools that have resources and parent involvement and all the tools to be successful, and lift up the schools that are struggling. So.
Yeah, I'll add my two guys that are pretty much off the grid, although I've done some FaceTime with one of them, are the two guys that could least afford it academically moving forward. And it's, my mom was so frustrated. She hung up on the call when they tried to get her a hotspot. And there's just, it was very frustrating from my perspective to see these and not make the connections with some of my guys. I think in one of my cases, mom said, "Okay, you're out for summer. I'm going to get you some paperwork and we'll work on that." But I'm not. She's been pretty much incommunicado. I've had one return email just to let me know that her kid was alive, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And basically just trying to slide through the rest of the academic year.
I don't want to say that for sure. I'm waiting to see if they did order some paper copies. I've sent them some additional printable copies, and I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if a bunch of paperwork showed up in July from him, but I wouldn't be surprised if nothing shows up either.
Well, my understanding is that the state is Kevin Brown is commissioner, and the board are directing all the superintendents, but Paul Rue as well. He's talking about having to look at a face-to-face school year, a start date. I just find that incredible, both from the job it represents for JCPS, but also the incredible confusion and lack of any planning for what families are going to do about this, because it could start anywhere from early August until late September. I mean, I'm hearing. Latasha and Gay, you guys have been talking to Marty, it sounds like. What's your best understanding of where they're headed with this? Nothing? Too early?
Yeah, I don't think we've pinned him down on any of that. I haven't. We've been focused on student assignment and tax increases and closing the inequities during NTI.
Right.
I figure it's too early to figure that out.
Yeah, I don't think they know it at this point. But speaking of which, tax revenues. What do we need to do going forward? This is not a unanimous vote. We took a position asking for 10 cents and got 7. 25% of which is going to go into facilities. I guess the real question is how do we present to the community about this? Where should AROS be on this? We're supportive of funding for equity. Are we?
What percentage did you say was dedicated to facilities?
Well, originally on the 8, it was going to be 25%, but Polio said at the night of the vote, not the tax hearing, but the vote, that he wanted to go back and talk to the board about that at a later date. He thinks he needs more money for facilities, and I'm afraid if he does that, he's starting out with $51 million of actual new money. That he's not going to end up with much more than 40 million, and was saying he needed 70 to do the programmatic work he wants to do. But that he is committing to West End, 3 West End schools at least. But it is definitely going to be quite the cutback on the programs he said he needed to have in place to really move the dial on gaps. And he knows they're going to go up on this. He's got $23 million worth of net loss for dealing with COVID, in spite of the fact that he didn't have to keep the schools open themselves. And he's pretty much committed to a raise for the teachers of some magnitude. So there's not going to be a whole lot of money left in there. What are thoughts here? What do we do? No. 6 months ago, I would have said we'd be spending the next couple of months out on trying to get around the district and making a case for this stuff. It's a little harder now.
I think it's an interesting scenario. I think from the side of things, if they have to collect 35,000 signatures to block it, it may have been an opportune time to move forward with the tax raise. I'm supportive. I do feel like if we're going to put our money somewhere, it needs to be in schools to start with. I hope it doesn't blow up in our faces because there is certainly a fair amount we can't afford anything else right now out of the and so I think part of the answer to your question is how do we stay proactive in messaging on why is this a good thing for our Louisville community and as a whole.
Leslie, I haven't heard from you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Recently on Facebook, someone I know put on something about they've already organized a group to get signatures for recall. And my friend put on there, she says, I signed it. She says, everybody should sign it because this is something about everybody's losing money. We should never raise taxes at this point. So another person wrote on and started explaining some of the issues that can be addressed only by increasing the tax. And I kind of chimed in there and added some more information. And her response for that is, this is the kind of information that the community needs, and I don't know where to find it. So I'm wondering if conversation should be had with polio, and I can't think of the woman who
Carmen Coleman?
No, the PR, the
Renee Murphy.
Yeah. Renee Murphy and the I am word searching. The journalists at Courier Journal, and really start pushing for here's the information you need to get out. We're not telling you how to put it out, but people need to know that how many schools are at end of life, how many kids are doing without books because, and the reason why, all of the information that we know, I don't think we have the wherewithal to get enough information out through our organizations. And I think like the Wave FM and Renee Murphy and the journalists really start hitting all of the people who can actually get just information. We're not talking a for or against it. It's just, these are the facts that you need to know. And yes, they've been in different pieces and we've followed it all along. But now the people are paying attention because somebody wants to tax them. So now's the time I think we get out that information condensed and all together in a lot of different venues.
I mean, this is the same thing that we asked for. It's just half the amount, basically, that's going to be going into programmatic stuff.
Yeah.
And then some important facilities. Gay, Latasha, want to weigh in?
I know, Gates. I know they were supposed to hire a PR team, right, Gay, to actually get the word out.
They hired a consulting firm that is more experienced in actually influencing recall vote situations, like tax increases specifically. So they did award that contract, but it did not I don't know if it has a PR component to it or not. I actually thought about going on their website and seeing if they're hiring anybody, because it's like up to $800,000. It's a lot of money.
And my understanding, Gay, was that Chris Brady had pushed for this, that they had an out if the board vote did not go, for the tax increase.
Sure.
So that the contract was intended to carry through.
Absolutely. And hopefully there's money and a strategy behind messaging, because one thing that we're up against right now, Leslie, is because that petition is out and people are starting to have a conversation and there's no counter narrative, there's no counter petition, there's no kitschy slogans that we could be pushing to help people at least ask the right questions before they go signing a petition. I think we need, you asked what AROS should do. We are a coalition of organizations that has already voted that we support a tax increase, so we could come forward with a website and our own little sign-on and support fully funding public schools. And I really liked the preamble, if you will, that Dr. Polio gave Thursday night, explaining why we need this tax increase and making a commitment to West End schools in particular, and talking about how people want to end busing, and we can't end busing because we don't have enough school. Like, he put it all out there in about 8 or 9 minutes. And I think getting a centralized location like Leslie was talking about, where people can go and get those facts and go and get some quick video clips from Marty, and then our message is simply, we support Dr. Polio in his efforts, and put some bullet points down that specifically talk about what it is that he's made commitments to. He came on the Louisville PTO public annual meeting, membership meeting, and made a commitment to West End schools when Kumar specifically asked him. So, we could find little clips and articles and just make that case. And I think Leslie was taking a little more neutral stance, but I don't think we should be neutral about it. I think we need to expose who is behind the website with the petition, and make sure people question the motives of why people would be getting these signatures, and tie them back to some of the outsiders and privatizers if there are ties to them. I don't know. I haven't researched them, but I'm sure there's some connections. Even their website, my virus scanner wouldn't let me continue to their website when I went to just check it out. It said malicious, it's gathering malicious information. And so, like, maybe you don't have a virus scanner on your machine, but you'd like to know that it's capturing and installing stuff on your computer if you go to this site. It's a fact. If you're going to it from certain screens, maybe at least, and maybe that's not where we put it on AROS, but show the logos of all of our organizations, and then reach out to other organizations that have also, like Sadiqa Reynolds, Urban League, I would think would quickly sign on to this coalition. So it may be, AROS may be the initiating partner. There's a name for it. I can't think of it right off my head, but when a coalition is formed, there's a lead organization, and so the 7 or 8 of us could be the lead organizations, and then others that aren't part of AROS would still show their logos and just show the robustness of the people. Maybe get some testimonials, some quick little memes that have hashtags that we use over and over, and I think that should have been out already. Personally, we should have been anticipating that this was going to happen, but we're all spread a million. Like I said, it takes 10 times longer to do everything right now, so I'm mostly directing that myself, because I feel like I should be doing more. So
at least one of the responses that I saw on one of the news stations, the lady that was heading up the movement for petitions was self-identified as Tea Party.
Yes, I saw that. And the Tea Partiers are tied to the Bevinites, so I don't think it would take much to connect her to Bevin. And if people just knew that it was, remnants of Bevin's ilk that are still trying to figure out a way to undermine public education and do the Betsy DeVos maneuvers, because that's basically what a lot of it boils down to as well. So people turned out to vote Bevin out, and they still remember that and why. So I think that alone might get them to really twofold. If they get enough petition signatures, our campaign needs to be able to carry on into November. So, you know, but let's try and stop it. Let's create enough enthusiasm around the counter message that if nothing else, people don't know what to sign, and then they don't get their signatures on the one that makes the difference. So. And also, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gabe.
I was just going to say, dear JCPS and Louisville PTO, simultaneously, if AROS wants to be a part of this as well, we welcome it. I'm sure Latasha would too. But regardless, our organizations are moving forward with the I Love JCPS campaign. She's got her t-shirt on. And we're giving them away as gifts. We've also got yard signs. So as people start showing up in our community wearing this message, hopefully it'll create a demand, and other people want to know where they can get those shirts, and we can have maybe a little fundraiser that helps pay for the yard signs and fulfill, since we don't have a budget, you know, kind of just keeps the momentum going forward until November if that's what it takes. And but not just the having the collateral, but the positive messaging. It's really hard to encourage people to sign a petition against JCPS when everybody's going around wearing I Love JCPS shirts and having signs in their yards. And I've even looked into getting billboard space donated, and for $500 for the cost of the vinyl itself, we can do that. So, and I do have a little bit of grant money that I'm working with right now. So we're moving forward with that campaign. Yes, Latasha, did you? You can't hear me?
Now we can. We couldn't hear you.
Like the whole 5 minutes I've been rambling?
30 seconds.
Okay, thank goodness. But I mentioned a billboard. I think maybe that's where about 30 seconds back. We're looking at getting billboard space donated, so all we have to come up with is the cost of the vinyl, which is $500, and I've got some grant money that I'm working with right now. So our organizations are moving forward with this positive PR JCPS campaign, and we would welcome other organizations to sign on. That's all I got.
I think that's a great initiative. My question is whether or not it's just directed at the tax increase. What is your messaging around that?
Well, and I may have cut out when I said this part too, but I think it's a lot harder to get.
Latasha, did you hear my question? Latasha, yeah. Can you answer? You've been working on this with her. What's your sense of the focus, getting this message out and tying it directly to the need for more funding for the schools?
Well, I think what she was trying to insinuate is that if you create where people are standing behind and supporting JCPS, if you have people wearing the shirts and the signs are out, and when we have billboards, it would be kind of a flip side of it to try to not support what Dr. Polio is trying to do to put funds into making better schools for the kids. So this is the campaign that we started before the corona.
Right. I mean, I've seen the campaign. We've seen it before. I believe I'm hearing that we all want to move forward on this. The question is, what immediate initiative get going in our organizations as well, and then link with each other on this thing.
Do you think JCTA would?
Where do you think? Go ahead.
Do you think JCTA would donate some resources like they did when we created a website for our JCPS? Would they donate a WordPress designer that could put a little site together for us in a couple of days?
I'll be happy to ask. mean, because they're obviously deeply invested in this thing going through. So I would think they probably have some of that we want them sharing with us.
Yeah, I would offer to do it, but my computer broke yesterday of all days, and we are finding that over the holiday weekend and being an hour from civilization and a few other challenges, we won't be. I won't have a computer for a few days, and but it would be nice if we had shared access to it so that others can come in and make updates too. I worry about turning the reins over to just one organization that has the control over the messaging. It should be collectively driven. So that would be my only caveat.
Okay. I'll be in touch with Emily and Brent both and see where they are in that. But we were involved with them in lobbying the board members. We got what we got and trying to change Chris Brady and Linda Duncan's stuff. So I think they want to work with us. It's all the same fight at this point. Leslie, where do you think resources from the league are on this? How much energy is there for this? I want to kind of go organization by organization to see what sounds like. PTO and your JCPS are all in on this right now.
My sense is they would support the idea. As far as human resources wise, I don't think we've got many people who are in a position to be doing much at this point.
Yeah, and we can't do community forums like we had talked about in the spring as easily. Get out to a lot of groups. Greg, same question about Surge on this. What do you think their energy level and capability is to push this? And this is the critical time to see if they can actually stop the recall.
Yeah, I know a lot of energy with Surge. It's going around incarceration issues right now and cash bails, the big Freedom Friday, Breonna Taylor. But I think we can find a way to incorporate this conversation into the program. I just haven't had that discussion yet with the collective leadership. A lot of what Surge's strategy has been in the recent years, it's been going door to door, and clearly that's not been to us with the COVID-19 situation. So I will make a point to reach out to leadership and us to design a plan. I do think, at least social media perspective, we can be coming up with some effective messaging and has anybody talked about a collective action that we want to put together on this outside of social media at this point?
Not yet, but I could certainly see the same kind of Freedom Friday car caravans in support of JCPS or something like that kind of an action.
Yeah. That could be something simple. Add some messaging to the Freedom Fridays. But I think we need more than that. I think so.
So I know that you guys. I know you had just spoke about doing like a forum. We could still do that online, and I know with the Louisville PTO and Wave FM, we've had a few of those, and we've had over 20,000 people on each one. So I think if we did that and everybody represented their organization and had a forum, I think that would work, and we would share it on all our all on our social media pages. Try to get the media involved. I think we could do it still.
Just people that knew what they were talking about the issues they need that the general public needs to be aware of.
Yes, we can have Marty involved. Come on. So
I like that idea.
Tasha, do you have the bandwidth to lead that and call on us?
Yes. The Wave FM, we could do that. Stream it.
I think that'd be great. And it sounds like that's something that could be done comparatively quickly.
Yes.
Let the rest of us get some publicity about that. I certainly will be drafting something for an op-ed piece on this and get that out to people to comment on, but get something in the newspaper as quickly as possible about AROS is behind this. I mean, I'm hearing that strongly tonight, so I'll be putting some together for that avenue as well. But you can contact Marty, or sounds like you've got that connection already.
Yes, you can. I guess you could just figure out what a prospect date would be to do it.
I mean, I really think that's yours to tell us about your capacity on this, but okay. We certainly want this in the next few weeks, I would think.
Better, do I have your email? Do you mind sharing your email? I'm sorry.
I'll put it in the.
I'll throw mine in there too. I can reach out to you and see if we can't narrow it down to a couple of dates with El Surge. I think we can bring a lot of people into the discussion. That would be interesting.
Leslie, where do you